My husband's cheating ex was invited over me, family betrayal, fallout, and a shocking house takeback. So, background first, because this situation makes zero sense without context. And trust me, there's a lot of context here that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I've been married to my husband, Albert, for 3 years now, and we've been together for a total of 5. I thought things were going pretty well between us until this whole situation exploded in our faces. Albert was married before to a woman named Irene, and they were together for about 8 years, married for 5 of those. They got divorced. About 2 years before Albert and I started dating. The divorce was messy, from what I understand, with a lot of fighting over money and property. Irene apparently cheated on him with some guy from her work, which is what ended things. But Albert doesn't really talk about it much, and I never pushed, because, honestly, I don't care about his past relationships as long as they stay in the past where they belong. Now, Albert's mum, Denise, is a whole other story, and I should have seen this coming from the beginning. I guess I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, which, looking back, was probably my first mistake. Denise never really warmed up to me from day one, and I could tell she was comparing me to Irene. Constantly, even though she never said it outright. Just little comments here and there about how Irene used to do this or that. How Irene was so good at cooking or decorating or whatever. I tried to ignore it because I figured she'd come around eventually once she got to know me better. But it's been 3 years now, and she still acts like I'm some kind of temporary fixture in Albert's life. Even though we're married and have been talking about having kids soon. The thing about Denise is that she's always been kind of dramatic and high maintenance, and Albert has always just gone along with whatever she wants. He feels guilty about not being around enough. Especially since she raised him as a single mom after his dad died when he was 12. When Denise started talking about wanting to downsize from her big house to something smaller now that she's retired, Albert immediately jumped in and said he'd help her find something and pay for it as a gift. I wasn't thrilled about spending that much money without really discussing it first. But Albert was so excited about being able to do something nice for his mum. Honestly, our finances are pretty good, so I didn't make a big deal about it. Even though we were talking about like $400,000 for a nice little house in a good neighborhood, Albert found this perfect little house for Denise: 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a nice small yard, close to her friends and her church, and all the places she likes to go. He bought it outright as a surprise for her 65th birthday back in March. Denise cried, hugged him, and said it was the most wonderful gift anyone had ever given her, and how proud she was to have such a thoughtful son. I was standing right there, but she didn't acknowledge me at all, even though half that money was technically mine too since we share our finances. But whatever, I was happy that she was happy, and Albert was practically glowing with pride. So I kept my mouth shut about feeling left out. Denise moved into the new house in April, and spent the next few months decorating and getting settled, making it exactly how she wanted it. Albert would go over there every weekend to help with little projects and repairs. And I'd usually go with him because that's what married couples do. They spend time with family together. Except Denise would always find ways to get Albert off doing something by himself, while she'd make awkward small talk with me, or just ignore me completely, focusing on her neighbor who'd come over, or calling one of her friends to chat, while I sat there feeling like an idiot. So last month, Denise started talking about having a housewarming party to show off the new place to all her friends and family. Albert got all excited and started helping her plan it, asking who she was going to invite and what kind of food she wanted to serve. I was listening to all this planning and assuming that, of course, I was invited, because I'm Albert's wife. And I helped pay for the damn house, even if she doesn't want to acknowledge that part. But Denise never actually says anything to me directly about the party. She just keeps talking to Albert about it. About 2 weeks ago, Albert came home from work with this strange look on his face. I could tell something was bothering him, but he was trying to act normal. I really hate when people do that because it just makes everything more awkward. So, I asked him what was wrong. He said Denise called him at work to finalize the guest list for the party, and there was something he needed to talk to me about. I thought, Okay, maybe she wants me to bring a specific dish or help with decorations or something, but no. That wasn't it at all. Albert sat me down and started doing that thing where he tries to find the right words and takes forever to get to the point. I was getting more anxious by the second because I could tell this was going to be bad news. Finally, he just came out with it. Denise doesn't want me to come to the housewarming party because she invited Irene, and she doesn't want things to be awkward between us. I just stared at him for a minute because I honestly thought I heard him wrong. There was no way his mother would invite his ex-wife to a party celebrating a house that we bought for her, and then tell me I couldn't come. But no, that's exactly what happened. Albert explained that Denise ran into Irene a few weeks ago, and they got to talking. Denise mentioned the new house and the party, and apparently just invited her right there on the spot. When Albert asked Denise why she didn't think to maybe ask him first before inviting his ex-wife to anything, she said that she and Irene had always been close, and that Irene was part of the family for 8 years. She didn't see why they had to stop being friends just because the marriage didn't work out. I was trying to process all of this, so I asked Albert if Denise knows that Irene cheated on him because maybe she forgot or doesn't understand why they got divorced. Albert said that Denise knows exactly what happened and still thinks Irene is a wonderful person who just made a mistake. I was getting angrier by the minute, but I was trying to stay calm. I asked Albert what he said to his mother when she told him this plan. He said he told her it wasn't appropriate, and that if she wanted to maintain a friendship with Irene, that was her choice, but she shouldn't be excluding me from family events. I asked what Denise said to that, and Albert got even more uncomfortable. He said that Denise told him she already invited Irene and didn't want to uninvite her because that would be rude, but she also didn't want me there because she was worried I might say something to make Irene uncomfortable or cause drama. That's when I completely lost it because I have never caused drama at any family event. I barely even talk at family gatherings because Denise and her friends dominate every conversation, and I mostly just sit there smiling and nodding like an idiot. I told Albert that this was completely insane and that I couldn't believe his mother would choose his cheating ex-wife over his actual current wife. I made it clear that there was no way I was going to be okay with this. Albert said he totally agreed with me and that he already told Denise she needed to either invite both of us or neither of us because he wasn't going to choose between his wife and his ex-wife. I thought, okay, good, he's standing up for me and for our marriage, and Denise will realize she's being ridiculous and fix this. But then the next day, Albert came home looking even worse than before. I could tell the conversation with Denise didn't go well. It turns out Denise completely flipped out when Albert gave her the ultimatum. She accused him of being controlling and letting me manipulate him against his own family. She said that I was obviously jealous of Irene and trying to drive a wedge between Denise and Albert. She claimed that Albert was making a huge mistake by choosing a jealous, manipulative wife over his loving mother who only wanted what was best for him. Here's where I think I might have gone too far, but honestly, I was so angry that I couldn't think straight, and the words just came out of my mouth before I could stop them. I told Albert that if his mother wanted to play games and exclude me from family events while inviting the woman who destroyed his first marriage, then maybe she didn't deserve the house we bought her. I said that if Denise wanted to choose Irene over me, then she could ask Irene to buy her a house instead of relying on the generosity of the son she was actively disrespecting. Albert got quiet for a long time, and I could see him thinking. Started to worry that maybe I had pushed too hard, and that he was going to side with his mother after all. But then he said that I was right, and that his mother was being completely inappropriate and disrespectful to our marriage. He said actions have consequences, and he was going to call Denise to tell her that if she didn't want me at the housewarming party, then there wouldn't be a housewarming party at all, because he was taking the house back. I want to be clear here. I never actually expected Albert to follow through on taking the house back. I was just so frustrated and hurt that I was lashing out and saying things to make a point about how unfair this whole situation was. But Albert has always been very black and white about things. And once he makes up his mind about something, he doesn't back down. Apparently, He had decided that his mother had crossed a line that couldn't be UNCR/OSSED, so Albert called Denise the next evening, and I was sitting right there listening to his side of the conversation. I could hear Denise screaming at him. Through the phone, even though he wasn't on speaker, Albert told her very calmly that she had a choice to make. She could either invite me to the party and make it clear that I was welcome and wanted there, or she could find somewhere else to live because he was taking the house back. Denise was absolutely losing her mind, calling him names and saying he was being manipulated by his evil wife and that she couldn't believe he would threaten his own mother over some woman he had only been with for 5 years. The conversation went on for about 20 minutes, and it was just Denise screaming while Albert stayed calm, repeating that this was her choice and that he wasn't going to continue funding her lifestyle if she couldn't show basic respect to his wife. Finally, Denise hung up on him, and Albert turned to me and said that we would probably hear from her again once she calmed down and realized he was serious. But Denise didn't calm down. Instead, she doubled down and started calling other family members to tell them what a terrible son Albert was being and how I had manipulated him into threatening to make his own mother homeless over a party invitation. The next day, Albert's aunt called him and said she couldn't believe he would be so cruel to Denise. She was worried about his mental state if he was willing to do something so extreme. I'm sitting here listening to all this family drama unfold, and I'm starting to feel like maybe I really am the problem here. Because everyone seems to think that threatening to take back a house over a party invitation is completely insane. 3 days after Albert's phone call with Denise, she shows up at our house unannounced. She's clearly been crying, but she's also furious, and she starts yelling at both of us the minute we open the door. She's going on and on about how she raised Albert by herself, sacrificed everything for him, and this is how he repays her by threatening to make her homeless because his jealous wife can't handle the fact that he had a life before her. She says that Irene was like a daughter to her, and that just because Albert couldn't keep his wife happy doesn't mean Denise should have to lose someone she cares about. That's when I snapped. I have been patient and understanding, trying to build a relationship with this woman for more than 3 years, and she has never once tried to make me feel welcome or wanted in this family. I told Denise that Irene stopped being her daughter-in-law the minute she decided to cheat on Albert and destroy their marriage. It was completely inappropriate for Denise to maintain a close friendship with someone who hurt her son like that. I said that if Denise wanted to be friends with Irene, that was her business. But she didn't get to exclude me from family events to make room for Albert's ex-wife. Denise started screaming at me about how I was a manipulative little person who had turned her son against her, and that she knew from the beginning that I was no good for Albert. She said that Irene never would have acted like this, and that Irene understood family loyalty and wouldn't have tried to come between a mother and son. I just lost it completely and told Denise that maybe if Irene was so perfect, she should ask her to move in and take care of her instead of relying on the son she was treating like garbage. At that point, Albert stepped in and told his mother that she needed to leave our house immediately and that she owed me an apology for the way she was speaking to me. Denise turned on Albert, saying she couldn't believe he was choosing some woman over his own mother. His father would be ashamed of the man he had become. Albert's face went completely white when she brought up his dad. He told Denise that she had exactly 24 hours to decide if she wanted to keep the house or keep excluding me from family events. But she couldn't have both. Denise left after that and didn't contact us for 4 days. I was starting to think maybe she had decided to back down and we could all move forward, putting this behind us. But then yesterday, Albert got a call from Denise. She was crying and apologizing, saying she had been thinking about everything and realized she was wrong to exclude me from the party. She said she wanted to make things right and was going to call Irene to uninvite her so that I could come instead, and we could all be one big happy family again. But here's the thing, and this is where I think I might be going too far. I don't want to go to Denise's party anymore. The only reason she's inviting me now is because Albert threatened to take the house back. She's not inviting me because she wants me there or because she realizes I'm part of the family. She's inviting me because she's being forced to. I don't want to go somewhere I'm not actually wanted. Plus, the fact that her first instinct was to protect Albert's cheating ex-wife's feelings over mine tells me everything I need to know about how she really feels about me. And I don't think that's going to change just because she's being coerced into including me. I told Albert that I appreciated him standing up for me, but I didn't want to go to the party anymore because Denise had made it clear that I wasn't welcome. I wasn't going to force myself into a situation where I'd be surrounded by people who didn't want me there. Albert said he understood how I felt, but that maybe this could be a chance for me and Denise to start over and build a better relationship. Now that she knew he was serious about putting our marriage first, but I don't think Denise learned anything from this, except that Albert will use money to get his way. And I think she's going to resent me even more now because she probably blames me for almost losing her house. I think she's going to spend the rest of our marriage waiting for Albert and me to get divorced so she can go back to pretending I never existed and welcoming Irene back into the family with open arms. The party is supposed to be this weekend, and Denise keeps calling Albert, asking if we're coming, and what she can do to make me feel more welcome. It all feels so fake and forced that it makes my skin crawl. I keep thinking about how she screamed at me, called me names, and said that Irene was better than me. I just can't imagine sitting in her living room, pretending like everything is fine between us, when we both know it's not. Albert thinks I should go to the party because he says this is Denise's way of trying to make amends, and that if I don't go, it will just prove to his family that I really am trying to keep him away from them. But I feel like going to the party would be rewarding Denise's bad behavior and showing her that she can treat me however she wants as long as she apologizes afterward. When there are consequences, the thing is, I don't even care about the stupid party anymore. I care about the fact that when Denise had to choose between making me feel included and making Albert's ex-wife feel comfortable, she chose the ex-wife without hesitation. Albert's family is still calling him, trying to convince him that he's being unreasonable and that threatening to take back the house was going too far. Maybe they're right, but I can't help feeling like if we back down now, then Denise will know she can treat me however she wants because Albert will always choose keeping peace in the family over standing up for his wife. I can't live the rest of my life being treated like a second-class citizen in my own husband's family because his mother can't let go of his ex-wife. So I guess what I'm asking is, am I the bad guy for telling Albert to take back the house his mother bought her when she chose to invite his ex-wife over me? And am I the bad guy for not wanting to go to her party now, even though she's apologized and invited me? Because honestly, I don't know anymore, and I'm tired of thinking about it. I just want to know if I'm being reasonable or if I've completely lost my mind over a party invitation that probably doesn't even matter in the end. Well, I wasn't expecting this to blow up like it has, but I guess I should update everyone on what happened since I posted this. Honestly, I'm still trying to process everything that went down, but here goes. After I posted, I showed Albert some of the comments people were leaving, and we talked for a long time about the whole situation and what we should do about the party. This weekend, Albert said he had been thinking about it too, and was starting to wonder if maybe we had gone too far with the house threat. However, he still felt like his mother was completely out of line with the whole ex-wife situation, and he didn't know how to fix it without setting a precedent that she could treat me badly whenever she wanted. We decided that Albert would call Denise and tell her we appreciated her apology and her willingness to uninvite Irene, but that I still wasn't comfortable coming to the party because too much had been said and done. We all needed some time to cool off before we tried to rebuild our relationship. Albert was going to suggest that maybe we could all have dinner together in a few weeks once everyone had calmed down, allowing us to start fresh without all the drama and pressure of the party. But before Albert could make that call, Denise showed up at our house again yesterday afternoon. And this time she brought reinforcements in the form of Albert's Aunt Holly and his cousin Carol. They were clearly there for some kind of intervention. Denise had been crying again and looked terrible. She started talking immediately about how she hadn't slept in days and was making herself sick worrying about losing her son and her house. She just wanted everything to go back to normal. Holly jumped in and said that the whole family was worried about Albert and that everyone thought I was a bad influence on him, because the Albert they knew would never threaten his own mother like this. Carol mentioned that she had talked to Irene, and that Irene felt terrible about causing problems between Albert and Denise, even suggesting that maybe she shouldn't come to the party if it was going to cause issues. That's when Denise said something that made everything click into place for me, and I realized this whole thing was even worse than I thought. Denise mentioned that she had talked to Irene too, and that Irene had been so sweet and understanding about the whole situation, even offering to help mediate between Denise and Albert because she knew him so well and understood how to talk to him when he was being stubborn. I looked at Albert, and I could see that he was putting together the same pieces I was, because his face got really hard. He asked Denise exactly how many times she had talked to Irene since running into her. Denise got defensive and said she didn't see why that mattered. But Holly mentioned something about how Denise and Irene had been texting back and forth quite a bit over the past few weeks and how Irene had been so supportive during this difficult time. So Albert asked Denise directly if she had been discussing our marriage and our personal business with his ex-wife. Denise got even more defensive, insisting that Irene was just a friend trying to help and that Albert was being paranoid and suspicious for no reason. But then Carol let it slip that Irene had mentioned something about Albert always being stubborn when he felt attacked, and that he usually came around if you gave him time and space to think things through. Albert's whole demeanor changed, and he told Denise that he wanted to know exactly what she had told Irene about our marriage and about this whole situation with the house and the party. Denise tried to downplay it, but Albert kept pushing. Finally, Denise admitted that she had told Irene about how I was trying to control Albert and turn him against his family, and how she was worried that Albert was making a mistake by choosing me over the people who really loved him. That's when I realized that this whole thing wasn't just about Denise wanting to maintain a friendship with Irene. This was about Denise actively working with Albert's ex-wife to undermine our marriage and make me look like the bad guy. Denise had been using Irene as some kind of relationship expert to figure out how to manipulate Albert and get him to choose her over me. And that's why she was so confident about excluding me from the party in the first place. I told Denise that she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed by involving Albert's ex-wife in our personal business and trying to use her to manipulate our marriage. I said that this wasn't about jealousy or insecurity. This was about Denise actively working against our marriage with someone who had already proven she couldn't be trusted when it came to respecting marriage vows. Denise started crying, saying that I was twisting everything and making it sound worse than it was, and that she just wanted her family back the way it used to be. But Albert cut her off, stating that the family had changed when he got divorced, and it changed again when he married me. He told Denise that she needed to accept that Irene wasn't part of our family anymore, and stop trying to use her to fix problems in our relationship. Holly tried to jump in and defend Denise, arguing that we were being too harsh and that Denise was just scared of losing her son. She said that maybe Denise was making some poor choices, but that didn't make her a terrible person. However, Albert insisted that threatening to exclude his wife from family events while including his cheating ex-wife wasn't just a poor choice. It was an attack on our marriage, and he wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. Albert then told Denise that the house situation was no longer negotiable and that she had 30 days to find somewhere else to live, because he was done being manipulated and having his personal business discussed with his ex-wife behind his back. Denise completely lost it at that point, screaming about how she was being punished for caring about Albert and trying to help him. See that he was making a mistake with me. Holly and Carol attempted to calm Denise down, but she just became more and more hysterical, claiming that I had destroyed her family and turned her son into someone she didn't recognize. She asserted that Albert used to be a loving son who would never treat his mother this way, and that I had poisoned him against her from the beginning, and now I was trying to make her homeless. I finally had enough and told Denise that she had made her choice when she decided to team up with Albert's ex-wife against me, and that actions have consequences. I said that if she wanted to play games and manipulate people, then she could find someone else to fund her lifestyle, because we were done being her victims. Denise turned to Albert one last time, begging him to reconsider. She said that she would do anything to make things right, and that she would never talk to Irene again, if that was what it took to keep her house and her relationship with her son. But Albert replied that it was too late for that, and that trust, once broken, couldn't be easily repaired. He pointed out that Denise had shown her true colors when she thought she could get away with her actions. After they left, Albert and I talked for hours about everything that had happened and how we wanted to move forward. Albert said he felt terrible about the whole situation, but couldn't allow his mother to undermine our marriage with his ex-wife and expect there to be no consequences. He mentioned that he had been wondering why Denise seemed so confident that he would eventually come around and choose her over me. And now he understood that Irene had been coaching her on how to handle him. I asked Albert if he thought we should give Denise another chance and maybe let her keep the house if she promised to cut contact with Irene and respect our marriage going forward. But Albert said the problem wasn't just about Irene. It was about Denise's fundamental lack of respect for me and for our marriage. And he didn't think that would change just because she was being forced to hide it better. So, as of now, Denise has 30 days to move out of the house, and Albert is going to sell it. We're going to use the money for a down payment on a bigger house for ourselves, since we're planning to start trying for kids soon anyway. Albert's extended family is furious with both of us, and we're probably going to be excluded from family gatherings for a while. But honestly, I'm okay with that, because I'd rather be excluded for standing up for myself than included as someone's punching bag. I know some people are going to think we went too far, and that we should have tried harder to work things out with Denise, but I feel like we gave her multiple chances to do the right thing, and she chose to make things worse by involving Albert's ex-wife in our personal business. I don't regret standing up for myself, and I don't regret Albert standing up for our marriage, even though it's likely going to cost us his relationship with his mother and possibly some other family members too.